July 10, 1944, 14:20 hours. Near Hill 112, Normandy, France. The air in the steel compartment was a suffocating mix of sweat, hot oil, and fear. Sergeant Frank Chocky of the 2nd Armored Division squinted through the M4 Sherman's narrow periscope, his world a vibrating 3-inch slit of emerald green. Outside, the Normandy bocage was a claustrophobic hell, a labyrinth of ancient 10-foot-high hedgerows that turned every field into a pre-sighted killing box. His M4, nicknamed Kentucky Kaintuck, was the lead tank in a column of 3, nosing its way through a break in the hedge. The other 2 Shermans were just 20 yards behind. They were supposed to be the mailed fist of the Allied advance. They felt like bait. In his breast pocket, a letter from his brother in New Jersey, folded and refolded until it was soft as cloth, felt impossibly heavy. His brother worked at the Chrysler factory. "Frankie," he'd written, "they're rolling off the line so fast we're painting 'em green and shipping 'em wet. We're building you a whole damn army." Frank gripped the turret's traverse handle. He didn't want an army. He wanted one tank that could survive what was waiting for them. He'd heard the stories from other crews, men with hollowed-out 1,000-yard stares, stories of the Panzer VI, the Tiger, a 57-ton beast that haunted these lanes. They said its gun, the 88, had a flat, sharp crack and that its shell, traveling faster than sound, would kill you before you even heard the shot. They said the Sherman's 75mm shells just bounced off. Their tank had a nickname, a gallows humor joke that every crew shared. The Ronson, after the popular cigarette lighter. Lights up the first time, every time. Suddenly, his gunner, a 19-year-old kid named Popeye, yelled, "Contact! 2 o'clock!" In the trees. God, it's huge. Frank spun his periscope, and there it was, 800 yards away, squatting in the shadow of a bombed-out barn, a blocky, menacing silhouette, a Tiger. It was sitting perfectly still, its long 88mm gun slowly, almost lazily, traversing towards them. Frank's heart stopped. He had 50,000 American tanks at his back, an ocean of steel. But in this field, on this day, he was one, and he was already dead. The Panzerkampfwagen 6 Tiger Ausf E was not a tank. It was a psychological weapon. It was the physical manifestation of Germany's late-war industrial philosophy, a belief in the absolute decisive power of qualitative, technological superiority. The Tiger was born from the shock of the Eastern Front. In 1941, German Panzer crews, brimming with arrogance from their blitzkrieg victories, ran headlong into the Soviet T-34 and KV-1. Their 37mm and 50mm guns were useless, their shells shattering like marbles on the sloped Soviet armor. Hitler, furious, demanded a superweapon, a tank that could not be beaten. The result, designed by Henschel, was the Tiger R. It was a masterpiece of over-engineering, a 57-ton mobile fortress. Its frontal armor was 120 millimeters of solid, face-hardened Krupp steel, immune to almost every Allied anti-tank gun in existence. Its heart was the 8.8 mm KWK-36 L-56 gun, derived from the world's most feared anti-aircraft gun, the Flak 88. This cannon was a sniper's rifle, paired with legendary Zeiss optics. A Tiger gunner could hit and destroy a Sherman from 2,000 meters or more, a range at which the Sherman's own 75mm gun couldn't even scratch its paint. These behemoths were not issued to regular panzer divisions. They were organized into independent heavy tank battalions, the Schwer Panzerabteilungen. These were elite, veteran crewed fire brigades, rushed to the most critical sectors to halt breakthroughs or spearhead desperate counterattacks. In the hands of an ace like Michael Whitman, a single Tiger could, and did, annihilate an entire British armored column in minutes at Villers-Bocage. The German high command strategy was simple. One Tiger was worth 10 or even 20 Allied tanks. They were betting the war on it. From the commander's cupola of a Tiger, the world was a different place. Hauptscharführer Karl Fritz Wagner, a 24-year-old veteran of Schwere SS Panzerabteilung 101, felt a profound, almost serene sense of invincibility. His tank Tiki was a steel cathedral. The 700-horsepower Maybach engine rumbled beneath him, a low, powerful thrum. He had 92 rounds of 8.8 cm ammunition. He and his crew were a Gemeinschaft, a brotherhood, the absolute elite of the German war machine. His perspective of the battle was one of contempt. He looked through his binoculars at the approaching American Shermans. They were, in his mind, tin cans, Blechbüchsen. They were tall, clumsy, with thin vertical armor. He watched them nose through the hedgerow one by one. It was, he thought, like fish in a barrel. He gave the order to his gunner, Target lead tank. Range 800. Panzer grenade. Fire. The 88's sharp crack was, to him, the sound of victory. He watched the shell streak, a line of light and punch directly through the Sherman's glacis plate. A secondary explosion. The turret blew off in a geyser of flame. Target second tank. Range 820. Fire. It was simple, methodical, industrial killing. For Sergeant Frank Choki, it was a 10-second apocalypse. The crack hiss of the Tiger's gun was the first and last thing he heard. His tank, Kentucky Kaintuck, exploded. The 88-meter AP shell, traveling at 2,600 feet per second, punched through his driver, crossed the fighting compartment, and detonated the ammunition stored in the sponson. The Ronson lived up to its name. Choki, miraculously, was blown clear from the open commander's hatch. He landed hard in the mud, his ears ringing, his skin scorched. He looked back. His tank was a 30-ton funeral pyre. His crew was gone. The second Sherman, Popeye's tank, fired a 75mm shell. Choki watched it hit the Tiger's frontal plate. It ricocheted, a bright spark, completely harmless. The Tiger's turret, moving with a slow hydraulic whine, traversed. Crack! The second Sherman exploded. The third Sherman, in a panic, fired its smoke shell launcher and threw itself in reverse, disappearing behind the hedgerow, its engine screaming. The battle was over. It had lasted 45 seconds. A single Tiger had destroyed 2/3 of an American tank platoon and halted the advance. Tiger phobia was not a myth. It was a battlefield reality, paid for in blood and burning steel. The German High Command knew all about the M4 Sherman. Their Abwehr agents, their engineers, and their propaganda ministry had mocked it. They saw it as the perfect symbol of their enemy, a commercial product, built not by warriors, but by car mechanics in Detroit. It was a stopgap, a flimsy mass-produced gangster weapon. They believed the American philosophy of quantity over quality was a sign of cultural and spiritual weakness. Their expectation was that a handful of their qualitatively superior Tiger and Panther knights would shatter the peasant army of Shermans. The German mind, rooted in a handwork, craftsmanship tradition, could not comprehend the American mind. The American generals, men like Leslie McNair, knew the Sherman wasn't the best tank. They didn't care. The M4 Sherman was the good enough tank. It was simple to build, simple to drive, and most importantly, simple to fix. The American strategy was not based on engineering perfection. It was based on logistics. It was born in the factories of Chrysler, Ford, and General Motors. The Germans at Henschel, using specialized slave labor and master craftsmen, could build, at their absolute peak, 140 Tiger tanks in a month. The American auto industry, at its peak, was producing 4,000 M4 Shermans in a month. By the end of the war, Germany had managed to build approximately 1,350 Tiger I tanks. The United States built just shy of 50,000 Shermans. The German expectation was to win a series of duels. The American strategy was to drown the enemy in an endless, relentless, overwhelming tide of steel. The title of this documentary is not a hyperbole. It is a literal strategic equation. Frank Choki, his face blackened with soot, scrambled into the ditch as the third Sherman, A. Abel, backed past him. The crew commander, a young lieutenant, was screaming into his radio, his voice high with panic. "Tiger! Tiger! Hill 112! We've lost 2! We need support now!" The Tiger, Tiki, confident in its victory, began to slowly advance. Its commander, Fritz Wagner, wanting to secure the kill. But the radio call had worked. This was the Sherman's real weapon. Not its gun, but its radio. From the left, in a field 1,000 yards away, another platoon of Shermans from Charlie Company, which had been in reserve, heard the call. 4 tanks. They didn't advance. They executed JIG, their standard anti-Tiger drill. They fanned out, creating 4 separate targets. One tank fired a white phosphorus smoke shell, which landed just short of the Tiger, obscuring its perfect view. Fritz Wagner, in his cupola, cursed. His gunner could no longer see. "Driver, forward! Get us out of this smoke!" he ordered. The 57-ton tank lurched forward. As it cleared the smoke, the 4 Shermans opened fire simultaneously. Crack, 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 crack. Their 75mm shells were not aimed at the front. They were just ringing the bell, a desperate attempt to distract, to blind, to get a lucky hit on the tracks. One 75mm shell hit the Tiger's thick turret armor. It bounced. Another hit the driver's periscope, shattering the glass. The Tiger was now half blind. Fritz Wagner, furious, ordered his gunner to fire on the closest target. Crack. A third Sherman brewed up, but it was too late. Two more Shermans, a new platoon, were now racing at full speed, a surprisingly fast 30 mph around the far right flank. The Tiger's turret, heavy and slow, powered by a hydraulic motor, could not traverse fast enough. The Shermans were wolf-packing. They were on his flank, and they weren't firing the 75mm. They were the new Firefly variant, a British modification with the lethal 17-pounder gun. Fritz Wagner heard the hits, 2 in a row, clang-clang on his right side. The 76mm armor. The 17-pounder shell punched through the steel as if it were cheese. The shell didn't explode. It was a solid shot that ripped through the crew compartment, hit the ammunition, and turned the invincible steel cathedral into an inferno. The hunter, outmaneuvered, outnumbered, and outsmarted, was dead. The clash of philosophies in the fields of Normandy revealed a stunning, unexpected truth. Tank-on-tank duels were not how the war was won. The German Tiger, designed to win these duels, was a magnificent solution to the wrong problem. It was defeated not by the Sherman's gun, but by 3 other wars it was never designed to fight. The War of Logistics. The Tiger was a 57-ton mechanical nightmare. It was powered by a 700 HP Maybach engine that was originally designed for a 30-ton tank. It was chronically overstressed. It achieved on a good day 0.5 miles per gallon. Its fuel tanks, holding 144 gallons, gave it a combat range of barely 60 miles. The complex interleaved road wheels were a maintenance disaster, prone to getting packed with mud and ice. Its transmission failed constantly. For every Tiger lost in combat, historians estimate 2 or 3 were simply abandoned by their crews, out of fuel, transmission shattered, or stuck in the mud. The War of Repair. A Sherman was a model of reliability. Its simple mass-produced Wright Continental engine could be completely replaced in the field in 4 hours. When a Tiger's transmission broke, which it often did, it required a 3-week factory rebuild. To even tow the 57-ton beast, the Germans needed 3 Panzer recovery vehicles. The Allies just sent another tank. The War of the Air. The Tiger's single greatest enemy was not a tank. It was a P-47 Thunderbolt. By 1944, the Luftwaffe was gone. The skies over France belonged to the Allies. The Tiger was a huge, slow 57-ton target. Its flat, wide-open engine deck was a welcome mat for the 50-caliber armor-piercing rounds and 500-pound bombs from Allied J-bows, fighter bombers. A Tiger crew's greatest fear was not the Sherman. It was the clear blue sky. The 50,000 Shermans didn't have to be better. They just had to be there. They were the anvil. Allied air power and artillery were the hammer. The Tiger phobia that gripped men like Frank Ciocchi was very real. It was a cancer on Allied morale. But on the German side, a different, more profound psychological collapse was happening. It was the Sherman phobia. German Panzer aces wrote about it in their diaries. It was a sense of utter futility. For Hauptführer Fritz Wagner, his victory was meaningless. He had destroyed 2, maybe 3 Shermans. It didn't matter. There were always more. He wrote in a letter, "We kill 10 and 20 more appear. We kill 20 and 100 more are on the road." They are not fighting a war. They are running a factory. And the factory never stops. The Tiger gave the German soldier a false sense of security, while the Sherman gave the American soldier a realistic one. The Tiger crew knew if their tank was hit, they were probably dead. The Sherman crew, despite the Ronson nickname, knew their chances of survival were actually higher. The Sherman had 5 hatches, better crew ergonomics, and its ammunition, in later wet stowage models, was far less likely to explode. The psychological effect of the Tiger was tactical fear. The psychological effect of the Sherman was strategic, soul-crushing despair. It was the realization that you could not possibly kill your way to victory. The Tiger Y, and its even larger successor, the King Tiger, were a strategic dead end. They were the most formidable, most feared, and most technologically advanced tanks of the Second World War, and they were a complete and total failure. They were a boutique weapon in a war of mass production. They consumed a vast, disproportionate amount of Germany's dwindling resources: steel, fuel, and most importantly, engineering talent. The time and money spent perfecting the Tiger's armor was time and money not spent building more reliable, cost-effective Panzer IVs, more U-boats, or more Me-262 jet fighters. The 50,000 Shermans won the war. They were the reliable, steel-plated workhorses that carried the Allies from Normandy to the Elbe, from North Africa to the Po Valley, and from the Philippines to Okinawa. They were part of a system, A system of air power, artillery, logistics, and numerical supremacy. The final verdict is this: Germany built a tank to win a duel. The United States built an army to win a war. The story of the Tiger and the Sherman is the ultimate military lesson. A good plan, executed today with overwhelming force, is infinitely better than a perfect plan that arrives too late, in too few numbers, and breaks down on the way to the battle. The single Tiger, a masterpiece of engineering, never stood a chance against the idea that produced 50,000 Shermans.